Welcome to Sustainable Success. I'm your host, Chris Salem. Hope everyone's having a great week. And if you are new to our show, you found us here on the Lisbon platform. And again, we are also on Spotify, Apple, and also YouTube. You can also listen to the audio portion of our show there. And we also encourage you to subscribe to our Facebook page at Sustainable Success 2017. There, we've had many of our great guests sharing their words of wisdom and insights to help elevate you and your business to the next level. And if you'd like to see future content on an upcoming show that we have not covered, which I might find it hard to believe since we've covered so many different areas over almost 8.5 years we've been on the air, we'd be more than happy to entertain that for a future show and making sure we align with a subject matter expert that will be able to provide you extreme value in that particular area. Today's show is being brought to you today by Alumni Direct. Alumni Direct is a new social media community platform dedicated to bringing alumni together from all different generational types and an opportunity to meet new people for the first time. Now, it is a membership program taking out all the noise out of social media. You get to come in and generate genuine and authentic relationships with the people you choose to interact with. If you'd like some more information about Alumni Direct, check them out at alumnidirect.com. That's alumnidirect.com. Well, we are going to be diving in deep today's episode on decisions that blueprints don't win, bold decisions do. So what does that mean? Well, you're going to find out. We're going to be listening to a subject matter expert from Special Forces missions to high-stakes startups. The biggest breakthroughs don't come from meticulously following a step-by-step plan. They come from one catalytic choice that shifts everything downstream. So we're going to be talking today and how you as a business leader, a business owner, can learn how to stop over-engineering your strategies that only work when nothing goes wrong. You're going to learn how to recognize when a plan is holding you back instead of moving you forward, and how to make bold, decisive choices that create lasting momentum. And finally, commit with confidence, turning uncertainty into measurable results. We're going to be here with Dr. Apollo Emeka. He's a former Special Forces Green Beret, FBI intelligence analyst, and founder of Apollo Strategy Group, where he helps bold leaders scale businesses that actually work for people. From dropping out of school in the fourth grade to earning a doctorate from USC, Apollo's unconventional path fuels his work, helping clients achieve transformational results, including guiding one family business to a large exit. And on the show, he's going to bring sharp, battle-tested insights on how to lead with clarity, build resilient teams, and make bold decisions that move the needle. You're going to be able to understand how stop waiting for permission and start writing the rules. And without further ado, we welcome Dr. Apollo Emeka to the show. Dr. Apollo, how are you doing today?
Woo! I am doing incredibly well. How are you doing, Chris?
I'm doing good. It's been a great week, and I'm so excited to have you on as we really get into the fourth quarter here. And it's just such ideal timing and how what you're going to be talking about and how this can be maybe highly enlightening to business leaders and owners that making bold decisions wins long term. So would love
Yeah.
to just start off a little bit, maybe before we begin to get into the topic itself, like a backstory about you and how this will apply to what you're going to be sharing with us today.
Well, first of all, I just have to say that you never quite get used to having your bio read out loud, but when it is a voice like yours that's reading it, it's even more surreal. It's just the funniest thing. Like, okay, yes, those things are true, but it's funny to stand here staring at a camera while like this perfect radio voice reads your life. So yeah, so I'm just now recovering from hearing that. But in terms of where does this bold decisions, why am I the big decisions guy? It's it goes back to my childhood. When I was around 9 years old, I came home from school and I said, I hate going to school. And my mom was reading a book on the couch and she said, well, we were thinking about homeschooling you. And I was like, oh, so like for fifth grade, I could just not go back to school. And she didn't even look up from her book. And she was just like, you don't have to go back tomorrow. And it blew my little mind. And I was like, ah, that's kind of irresponsible, Mom. Let me at least finish out the week. And then maybe I won't go back on Monday. So that was I didn't go back to school on Monday. And my parents tried to homeschool me, but I didn't want to get schooled by them either. And so I grew up having very, very little schooling. And I thought up until about a year ago, I thought what happened in fourth grade is that my parents pulled me out of school. But I realized about a year ago that what they did is they handed me this extraordinary power and responsibility, this decision-making authority of being able to decide when I would be enrolled in school. And so most people don't make a big life impacting decision until they're in their late teens, early 20s, maybe later. And my parents handed me this crazy decision-making power when I was just 9 years old. And so I woke up every single day with a decision to make. Do I want to be enrolled in school or not? And so I went to half of fourth grade. I went to 4 weeks of fifth grade. I was constantly making this decision and exercising that right to choose when I would be enrolled in school. And so that was kind of the first big decision that shaped who I am as a person and shaped the trajectory of my life.
Wow, fabulous. Fabulous. Thank you for sharing that. And we always love transparency, and we always find that, people who are transparent are end up being always the best leaders out there. So, let's talk a little bit about, we have a lot of people who listen to this show that are leaders on all different levels, from either small businesses to small companies, mid-sized companies, and people leading even in some, bigger organizations, maybe not necessarily be a CEO, of course, for a lot, but definitely are
Mhm.
leading a larger group of people. Let's talk a bit, like a lot of people have been taught that, if we don't plan, we can't succeed. We have to plan to execute to accomplish something, that type of thing. But why, like sometimes maybe people get caught up in maybe over planning or, but not maybe making decisions as a result of it. If you could share some insights that can maybe, get them to kind of see, what can they be doing that actually what they thought was helping them getting in their way.
Yeah, I mean, if you, no matter how awesome your plan is, if it's based on bad or murky decisions, it doesn't matter how good it is, how good your plan is. And as a matter of fact, sometimes really meticulous plans uh, are build overconfidence and have you committed to the wrong strategy. Because it's like, nope, we made a plan and we're going to execute our plan, and the
Yeah.
safety is in the plan. And plans, meticulous plans, can actually be really dangerous if they're built on weak, unclear, or delayed decisions.
Wow. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes total sense. And with the decisions, why do you think a lot of times people have a hard time making a decision? I mean, I know there's sometimes that can be certain personality types, some personality types it's harder for them to make decisions. But just overall, I think if we look at it, like why a lot of times people have a hard time making decisions. Is it feel of failure, fail of being wrong, that type of thing?
Yeah, I have developed what I call the complete decision protocol. And a complete decision has three components. There are three steps to making a complete decision. And step number one is deciding with heart. So it's 10 out of 10. You've got to identify what's going to be a 10 out of 10 for you, what's going to light you up. And similarly with teams, I was just working with an executive team for a real estate company in Phoenix over the past couple of days. And when you have a team, you have to identify for the team what's going to be a 10 out of 10 for each person and bake it into the decision. Because once you do that, then you have buy-in and energy and excitement around this decision. And there are two things that prevent people from deciding with heart. I can get to the other two steps in a second, but deciding with heart
No rush.
is the most it's so important to get this right, because if you do, everything else almost takes care of itself. Again, think about it. If you've got a decision, and I like to say decision, not goal. If you make a decision that you are going to do something and imagining doing that thing gives you butterflies, or it like puts a lump in your throat of like excitement and maybe a little bit of fear, like that is a motivator that when things get hard or boring or dull, that remembering the decision that you made is going to keep you going. So similarly, when you've got a team, right, of 5 or 6 or 10 people that all are like, this thing is a 10 out of 10 for me. And I can see myself in it. Now you've got all of this energy and all of these diverse perspectives pushing towards this outcome. So your question was, why don't people make decisions, and why don't people make decisions in that way? There are two monsters. I call them monsters that prevent people from doing this. There is the feasibility monster and the worthiness monster. So the feasibility monster sits on your shoulder and says, "Oh no way, no way we're going to be able to achieve that. No way we're going to be able to achieve that kind of growth. We've never achieved that kind of growth, so why set that as a target? Why make a decision around something that you're never going to achieve?" And so it cuts off the imagination about what's even possible before you've started to figure out ways to make the thing happen. And so that feasibility monster gets so many people. And so when we start to make decisions about what are we going to do in the next year, what am I going to do with my life, what are we going to do in the next 5 years, if you have a limiting the feasibility monster screaming in your ear, telling you not to think too big before you've even tried to engineer a path to the thing, you've already just limited what you can achieve. And in doing that, you're going to be less excited about it, right? Your team's going to be less excited about it. And so there's going to be less energy going towards that thing. So that's the feasibility monster. And then the second one is the worthiness monster. And I see this pop up a ton with individuals. When I'm coaching and supporting executives and entrepreneurs individually, they're like, who am I to really want that thing? I don't deserve that kind of success, or I don't deserve that kind of life. And I'm not even talking about money, but like I don't deserve to be able to balance seeing my family and being an awesome father or wife, husband, mother. I don't deserve to be able to do those things and to be very successful in business. And so those are the two monsters that pop up when making big decisions, is the feasibility monster and the worthiness monster. And so I always ask executives and entrepreneurs to kind of set feasibility and worthiness aside. We'll deal with that, but like, let's figure out what would be a 10 out of 10 for you in the first place.
Well, that's great. That's great. Thank you for sharing that. And like when with decisions, obviously every leader we have to make decisions on a daily basis. And what would be some things that, people that might struggle in that area that you may suggest might, what can they do to improve? Is there any things, techniques that you might share with us, or that, that could help in that area?
Yeah. So again, those are the things that I see, is what's going to be feasible and what are we or I worthy of?
What
And
do, yeah.
so being able to just set that aside and say, don't try to quiet that voice. Don't try to say, no, I am worthy. I can do this. I can. We don't know yet what it's going to take, right? So what
Yeah.
I would say is like these things that are hanging up being able to make a big decision, actually write them down. If it's a fear or a concern, write it down, because it's going to be valid. It's going to be important, but it's going to be important when we're starting to figure out a plan. It's not important in deciding what you want to do, right? And so that's what I would say is, don't try to get into this inner battle with yourself about what's going to be possible or what you deserve. Instead, just set it aside, write it down, set it aside, and say, we'll get there. And let's just focus on this 10 out of 10 decision first.
Wow, makes sense. I love that. Love that. Great, great advice, what you're sharing, and I hope listeners are getting a lot of value. Now we got about 2.5 minutes to the first break, and I before we get into some new other areas that you're going to talk about, I just figured if anything else that you wanted to elaborate on as we go to the break on what you've just shared with us when it comes to making bold decisions here, and then I do want to get back and then apply that to some maybe some situations you've actually helped in, without getting into any specifics, of course, where that
Yeah.
happened. I think that would really resonate well with the audience. But anything else you want to elaborate what we just shared so far to take us out to break?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the ways that I like to think about making decisions is one big, bold decision can devour 100 or 1,000 small decisions or tasks. So let's take the instance of Steve Jobs or Mark Zuckerberg or Barack Obama wearing the same thing every day, right? So what they have done is they have made a decision about their wardrobe, about what's in their closet, right? Made one big decision about what's in their wardrobe that now has eliminated the need to decide or the need to do anything to expend lots of energy either thinking or doing, right? And so you can do similar things in across your life and business. So like for instance, my family we decided to move to Panama, to pick up and move our family to Panama. And what that did is it devoured a whole bunch of other decisions and tasks that we could make. We knew we wanted to live someplace walkable. We knew that we wanted to be close to nature. We knew that we wanted amenities. And so by making this big, bold decision, it devoured a whole bunch of tasks that we had to do when we lived in Los Angeles. Now we just those tasks don't apply to our lives anymore. And so if you're having a hard time and you feel like you're trapped in execution and you're buried in to-do lists and whatnot, think about what's a decision that you could make that would just devour your entire to-do list?
Wow. Powerful. Love that. Love what you shared there. And these are some valuable insights here. And we hope everybody is writing this down. And what we encourage everybody to do, we're going to do a deeper dive into this when we come after the break, which Dr. Paulo will be sharing here. But again, we encourage everybody to go back and listen to the first segment because a lot of times we might hear something, but maybe now the second time we go around, we might hear it differently because he did drop a lot of valuable insights. So we encourage you to listen to the show. And again, don't be afraid to share this with somebody on your team or another leader because, again, this is great information that you are receiving here. Tremendous value. Thank you so much with this, Dr. Paulo. I know we got to go to break, everybody. When we come right back, we got more to come with Dr. Paulo here. We've only hit the tip of the iceberg when it comes to this information. But when we come right back, we will go more into bold decisions win
Can't wait.
over bold planning itself. We'll be right back after the break. Welcome back to Sustainable Success. If you're just joining us, we're talking about blueprints don't win, bold decisions do. In the first segment, we kind of went through some of the basic steps on how, not just, getting caught up in our plans, but also how we make those decisions. A lot of times, we shared, Dr. Paulo shared some techniques and so on, and we're going to do a deeper dive, actually sharing some examples here in the second segment. And again, if you have any questions, you will be able to reach out to Dr. Apollo. He'll get his contact information, or you could always reach out to us and we'll make sure to connect you with him. So you'll make sure to stay for the entire show. So this way you can get this information to make contact. So Dr. Apollo, this has been wonderful what you've shared. Love to hear maybe some examples where perhaps you could walk us through without being anything specific, of course, but anything that you can kind of through that example, walk us through that framework again with the three steps there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd love to share with you the story of this company called Ethos Real Estate. So you can go look them up. They're amazing. They are a for-profit affordable housing developer. And I started working with them probably about 5 years ago. And a lot of the work that we did was the catalyst for the launch of the company. And so it's interesting because talking with the leaders at the time, this was again about 5 years ago, they were victims of the feasibility monster. Okay, so if you didn't listen to the first segment, then you're like, what is he talking about monsters for?
You want to remind them, let them, feel free to.
Go back and check it out. But this feasibility monster pops up and it starts whispering to you about what is possible and impossible before you even have gotten to the planning phase. And so it can poison your decisions before you even have an opportunity to make a plan around those decisions. And so some of the things that they were kind of the feasibility monster was whispering and sometimes yelling at them is, what is market? What is market rate? What can we feasibly charge for our development services? And so they had a really unique approach and a unique business model, and they were then turning and saying, "What's marketed? What's market? Before we set our goals and think about what we're going to do, we need to understand what is market rate for a developer of our size and whatnot." And so they had this hang up for, I don't know, weeks or months. Another kind of feasibility hang up that they had is looking at things from a deal by deal perspective. And so they were all over, they're California based, but they were looking all over the country at like, what's a good deal? But they weren't really defining what a good deal is. They were looking at what is a deal that we can do. Feasibility monster, can, right? What can we do? And so instead, the way that we started to look at it is like, well, okay, wait, let's zoom out a little bit and say, how do we make a decision that's at the foundation of our business that would light us up, that would get us excited, socially. They believe in social impact. So what's going to get us excited socially? What's going to get our investors excited and our potential investors? And what's going to get us, wanting to jump out of bed every morning and come work on these challenges? And so we flipped it from thinking about what's feasible and what's market and what deals can we do to saying, hey, we've got this big, huge target. And now that this big, huge target that's going to make us exciting, what do we need to charge? What does our fee structure need to be in order to hit this target? We've got this impact that we want to make in the housing space, and we want to make money doing it. Okay, well, so what kinds of deals do we need to do in order to make this decision a reality? And so, these are the questions that I was asking them almost 5 years ago. And in that time, they have spun out and launched their own company, and they've bought nearly $1 billion worth of real estate in that time frame.
Wow, fam, unbelievable. I love that. Love to hear success stories. And I know that again, a lot of our a lot of our listeners are very results oriented here, and when they hear stories like that that can relate, that really hits home. Anything else that you would like to expand on here, Apollo, in terms of this blueprint of, like, again, don't get hung up on blueprints itself and the plan, but again, knowing when to make those decisions. If you want to, clarify anything else that you want to expand on with the other steps that you talked about earlier that you think,
Yeah,
yeah, please do.
for sure. So if you are if you're a planner and you're a nuts and bolts, rows and columns, operationally minded person, and you're still hanging in there with me, you're probably like, yeah, man, sounds like manifestation, sounds woo woo. I don't know. Like it sounds nice, but how do you actually make it happen? So the way that you make it happen is when you've got your 10 out of 10 decision, the thing that's going to be incredibly exciting and fulfilling to accomplish, and your whole team is on board with it. The next step 2 of the complete decision protocol, is to identify the requirements. And so what folks are often doing when they are making plans of how to move forward, they're using 3 words that I forbid my clients from using. The 3 words are can, should, and could. I forbid my clients from using those words. So the reason why when you're building a plan that you don't want to use the word can, again, that is the language of the feasibility monster. Who cares what you can do? What do you need to do? If the thing that you can do is not going to effectively drive towards your big decision, who cares that you can do it? What's the value in it, right? And also similarly, who cares if you currently can't do a thing, because you have the power to change your capabilities, right? You can learn, you can enhance your relationships, you can hire somebody who has capabilities, right? There are so many ways to change your capabilities that we don't want to use the word can, because can is going to change. You can change your knowledge, capabilities, relationships, positioning. Also, something in the environment has the power to shift. Just look at interest rates, look at tariffs. These external things pop up and change what is a can today into a can't tomorrow, or changes something that's a can't today into a can tomorrow. So that's why I forbid my clients from using the word can, because it doesn't matter what you can do. It's what do you need to do. Should is the second word that is banned in the planning space. And should is banned because it almost always has a social connotation to it. Well, we should do this because companies of our size are also doing that. We should do this because this is how leaders should behave, right? But again, who cares what should happen? What needs to happen? That's the question that you always need to be answering is, here's what we want to do. What do we need to do in order to make that happen? And then could, anytime folks use could in the planning process, could is probably the most worthless of all 3 terms, because it's weaker than can. It's kind of in the same category as can, but it's like can with conditions. Well, we could do this if. So again, 10 out of 10 decision. And now you move into, okay, what needs to happen? Let's stay away from can, should, and could. And if you are in a planning meeting with your team and someone uses the word can, should, or could, ask them to replace that word with the word need and see if that sentence still makes sense. If you replace can or should or could with the word need, and you're like, well, actually, I guess we don't need to do that, then set that activity or that milestone or that piece of the plan off to the side. Because if you can't say you need to do it, why would you do it?
Well, that's just it. Yeah. Because now you feel like you need, it's just, it's almost like codependent in a way, like that way. Yeah. Now you go exactly.
Yep. Yep. And then so once you figured out those requirements, the third and final step is betting on game changers. So a game changer is a thing that dang near guarantees that your big decision will become a reality. And so these are like your kind of like swing for the fences, big plays. And the reason why I say bet on some game changers, because you don't want to make your whole strategy swinging for the fences, right? You want to make sure that your requirements are covered, that you're doing the things that are responsible, that are going to meet the needs of your big decision. But you also want to build in to your plan the opportunity to create some game changing plays. And so, the reason why I call it the complete decision protocol is because, again, a complete decision has all three of these elements. You've decided with heart, and you can audit. Take a look at the decisions in your company. And right now, you might not be calling them decisions. You might be calling them goals.
Yeah.
That's also a bad word where I come from, because goals are almost like treated by the brain like side quests. But decisions create cognitive dissonance, meaning that,
Can you expand on that? I think that that
yeah,
is highly valuable because I think so many people get caught up on goals, and goals a lot of times are so vague. People don't break them down. They don't look at, they don't break them down to what they can control. So they always get caught up in the goal, at the final goal of what, because they can't control every aspect of it. So they got overwhelmed, they get frustrated, and then they might overplan again, and then they don't make decisions, like you said. They don't
yeah.
follow through. So if you could do that, I think that would be a home run for this audience.
Well, you asked me earlier what for someone who has a problem making decisions, what do they do? And one of the ways that most people don't have a problem setting goals. And part of the reason why, you can say like, oh, well, we want to be the blah, 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 or we want to make X dollars, or we want this. And part of the reason why it's kind of easier to formulate a goal than it is a decision is because they don't hold a lot of weight in our brains. So if you have a list of goals, start shifting from saying, we have a goal to hit this number, we have a goal to establish ourselves as blah, blah, blah in this market. Instead of saying we have a goal, say I have decided, or we have decided. And now that see what happens in your body. See how you feel by saying decide versus we have a goal. Goals often with companies and organizations, I've found that goals are usually treated like we're just going to kind of keep doing what we're doing and we're going to hope that we get to there. Goals are often treated like hopes, but it's very rare that a company or a team goes all in on saying like we've decided we're going to go here and therefore we are building in, we've identified the requirements, and we are going to bet on some game changers that are going to get us there. And so the goals from a neuroscience standpoint, goals don't light up the the parts of our brain that are associated with commitment and that are associated with commitment, really. So like goals kind of come and go in the brain, but decisions are sticky in the brain and create cognitive dissonance, meaning that they become problems for the brain to reconcile. They say, okay, if we've made the decision that we want to go over here, now your brain is going to start consciously and subconsciously trying to engineer a route to that path. And goals, literally linguistically, don't have the same impact on the brain as decisions do.
Yeah. Wow. That is fabulous. And do you think, like, again, because of decisions, that fear that oftentimes, again, like you said, like we tend to not, we tend to shy away from that. And this even happens to the best of, some of the best leaders out there,
Oh yeah,
especially when we talk about bold decisions. We're not just talking about any decision, but a bold decision.
yeah. Uh, fear is huge. Fear is huge.
Because again,
But
there's always that uncertainty, like, and it's always for like a person that wants to be in control of every aspect, and they know they can't, so they might be, again, reluctant So it's like, how to, like I said, you gave some great tips on what they could do to kind of like, overcome that or go through it to make those decisions. And it's just, now they gotta do it, and not get hung up on, the plan itself, completely just attaching itself to that because the plan could keep them feeling comfortable and not
For
making a
sure.
decision, which oftentimes will not make them feel comfortable.
For sure. And maybe I'm opening a can of worms here as we're about to go to the break, but the the way we've been having this conversation is almost that like people are we're assuming that the leaders who are listening to this are like in their planning caves, like creating flow charts and diagrams and whatnot, and they're just stuck planning, and then they create this rigid plan and they feel like they got to stick to the plan. I don't know many people like that. I know people who are fighting fires. They are just overwhelmed by the
Overwhelmed.
amount of things that they have to do and that they believe they have to do, and then the things that just pop up: internal employee challenges, customer challenges, supply chain challenges. So I don't think that most people out there listening to this are like, oh, I got to
Really
make.
stuck in the plan, they react to these like
Yes.
uncontrolled situations that they can't. And even then, sometimes they got to do what they got to do, but even can still get hung up in not making certain decisions.
Absolutely. And I think that the weaker and more delayed your decisions are, the more you are going to be thrown into reactivity. And
Yeah.
so, I really believe that if you find yourself where every single day you are leaving work or you are leaving the office and you're saying, I set out to do these 10 things and I didn't do any of them, or I did one of them, that is a sign that you need to step back and make a decision that makes those 10 things less relevant or aligns them with the things that you're already doing. So that's how the power of decisions can save you. More planning is not going to optimize your to-do list if you're drowning every day.
Correct. Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. Great words of wisdom from Dr. Apollo. Again, if this is resonating with you, again, we're going to encourage you when we're in the third segment as we get towards the end, that when Dr. Apollo will provide his contact information to take advantage of reaching out to him one-on-one. Also, for any reason, we'll have all his information in the show notes as well here on the Lisbon platform. And of course, you could always reach out to us here at Chris at sustainablesuccess.net to our team, and we'll make sure to get you his contact information. We got to go to break, everybody, but when we come right back, we got more to come to, kind of take us out on blueprints don't win, bold decisions do. And we'll be right back after the break. Welcome back to Sustainable Success. If you are just joining us again, we've been talking here about blueprints don't win, bold decisions do. Again, we highly encourage you to go back and listen to segment 1 and 2. Highly valuable and a lot of great insights, even using an example of an organization. So again, a lot of people that have been watching or listening to Sustainable Success know that we like to share real life examples. So again, make sure to check that out later here today when you can listen to the entire show in its entirety. Again, our show is being brought to you today by Alumni Direct, a social media community platform dedicated to bringing alumni together from all different generational types and an opportunity to meet new people for the first time. Now, it also features a new section from athletes to entrepreneurs for those professional athletes that are now transitioning into everyday life, whether it's a new career, a job, a franchise, or a business, whatever that may be. You don't have to do it alone. Now you can form different groups that you could be talking to other former professional athletes on, discussing their journey as you're on the same path to what you're looking to do in the next chapter of your career. They also feature a podcast in this area called From Athletes to Entrepreneurs, hosted by the founder and CEO of Alumni Direct, Rob Finkelstein. So if you'd like some more information on that, you can get that at the Alumni Direct website at alumnidirect.com, and we recommend that you check that out. So, Dr. Apollo, just such great information. What you've shared here about, blueprints don't win, bold decisions do. And, a lot of times decisions are a hard thing for almost every leader out there. But when they're able to really make those bold decisions and do them in a swift manner, a lot of times that's a prime example that you can be for the people that work for you, that are, or maybe either they're working directly for you or indirectly for you, whatever the case may be. You kind of rub off on them in a positive way. So why, again, if you could explain why learning to get better at making bold decisions not only will benefit you, but it will benefit the people around you and, of course, the organization or business that you either you run or you represent.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let me go back and pick on goals for a second to
Yeah.
illustrate this point. So when people have a list of goals, they almost never think about how those goals are going to interact with each other, how they are going to compete with each other and contradict, or how they're going to support each other. So, for instance, sometimes leaders that I work with say, I want to run an Ironman and I want to make this much money and I want to spend this much time with my kid. So, anytime I see something like Ironman as a goal, I'm like, yo, hold up. Wait a minute. Okay. Ironman. It's a 2-mile swim, 100-mile bike, and a marathon, right? And takes people, if you're doing it pretty fast, like 8 hours. And so it means that training for it is a months-long part-time job. So if Ironman is one of your goals, then you're going to have to, everything else in your life is going to have to work around the fact that you are going to have a part-time job hitting this goal. And so Ironman, for instance, competes with a lot of other goals, unless you set your life up in a really intentional way. So similarly, we do things in the business where we'll set some goal, could be a revenue target, it could be a whatever, that is so resource intensive that when we get to the what's required, identify the requirements phase, that there are so many requirements that it's going to not leave a lot of space for other things. Okay. So, but especially if you're not thinking about all of your goals together, then it's going to be impossible to deconflict them and make sure that they're feeding each other. So I talked about a deciding with heart is a 10 out of 10 when you look at it in terms of fulfillment.
Yeah.
But one thing that I left out is that it also sounds like a toddler's run-on sentence. If you're doing it correctly, it sounds like a toddler's run-on sentence.
Yeah.
What do I mean by that? I'll read you my big decision that guides my whole life right now. Can I do that? Can I share that?
Yes, please do. Yeah.
Okay. So my big decision is By the end of 2027, I will establish myself globally as the big decisions guy by releasing a best-selling, awesome book, a top 5% podcast, and hitting high-profile stages to earn top fees as a speaker, coach, and facilitator, while helping millions of diverse execs and entrepreneurs for free or cheap with life-changing content, and working 4 days per week, traveling less than 10 days per month so I can maintain my health to be the best husband, an amazing father, and a valued family member and friend. So that is a big decision. That is, when I look at this, I'm like, yeah, by the end of 2027, achieving all these things, that's a 10 out of 10 for me. Gives me butterflies, makes me super pumped, right? There's a lot of stuff in here that is tough. But the more I have shared this big decision with folks, the more I had a friend, I shared this big decision, and she said, oh, globally, stages, oh, the big decisions guy, there's a TED is doing a search for global ideas right now. And so she put me onto this thing, and she said, it's closed. Every location is closed except Buenos Aires. But if you do well at Buenos Aires, then they'll pull you to the event in Vancouver. So now I can do this. I can share my ideas about making big decisions in Buenos Aires, and if I do really well, in Vancouver. Now, I don't know if I'll get selected even for the first one, but the fact that I put this big decision out here, the virtue of just talking about it made it more feasible. It created a path because my friend is saying, hey, why don't you go do this? So the way that this works with teams, because a solid big decision is a toddler's run-on sentence, it's so easy to get buy-in because you don't have to be that picky choosy with your language. So for instance, sitting in the room with this executive team on Tuesday, I'm able to say, hey, I'm able to go around the table and say, what would make this a 10 out of 10 for you? Cool. Let's add it in there. What would make this a 10 out of 10 for you? Cool. Let's add it in there. So at the end, we've got this big statement that everyone looks at it and they've got buy-in because their stuff is directly reflected. They're like, oh, yeah, it would be a 10 out of 10 for me. And so nobody asks to make decisions or set goals in that way of saying, what would light you up? Right? But now that we've got what would light you up, now that executive team is fully engaged, fully bought in because they see their 10 out of 10 heart's desires represented in this big decision that the company is making. So that's the really cool thing is you don't have to split hairs when you're making a big decision. And tension is good. So if you notice in my big decision, I say I want to establish myself globally, but I also say I don't want to travel more than 10 days a month. Right? And so there's healthy tension there. How am I going? That means my criteria is global inside of 10 days per month. Right? And that makes it really specific as to the path forward. There are not a lot of activities that I can do that are going to unlock that big decision for me. And that's good. So now I've made the decision-making process way easier because I have these seemingly contradictory criteria for making the decision.
Great insights. Hope everyone got some great value from that, and so important. I can't stress the importance of what Dr. Paulo just said because again when leaders can now step up and make better decisions, more swifter decisions. I mean that just again sets the example for the people in your organization, even helps even our customers and people we work with, and it just has a ripple effect. And loved what you just shared. Is there anything else as we get towards the end of the show, Dr. Paulo, that with what you just discussed in this last segment here, that you feel like you want to elaborate on what you just shared with us, that you really to connect the dots?
Yeah. So in special operations, when I was going through the Special Forces qualification course, I had this instructor that talked about changing channels, basically changing channels in your brain between tactical and strategic. And I always love that analogy because thinking about which channel do I need to be on right now? Do I need to be on a tactical zoomed in channel, or do I need to be on a strategic zoomed out channel? And the idea of changing channels, I mean, we all know how easy it is to change the channel on your TV. And I think that when I got that analogy in my brain, I was like, oh, it's just as simple as flipping the switch in my brain between tactical or strategic. And the better you do at making strategic decisions, the easier the tactical stuff becomes. So,
Ah, yes.
if you are zoomed out and you're making decisions at the strategic level, and again, we can go back to the wardrobe. That's a strategic choice, saying I'm only going to buy black t-shirts or black turtlenecks. That is a strategic choice. It means when you go shopping, even, you don't got to go up and down every aisle. You got to go straight for those black turtlenecks. It makes everything at the tactical level easier, right? And so often I think like I actually don't like making little decisions. I'm the big decisions guy, not the small decisions guy. So what I want to do is I want to make a decision that is going to eliminate the need for future decisions. I want to make a decision that's going to eliminate the need for 1,000 small tasks. I make a decision that again is like, oh, okay, it means I need to pour into this TED application. Because if I get this TED talk and I go to Buenos Aires, then I am establishing myself as a global speaker. If I bring my family along with me, it means that we're going to this magical place where I get to be an awesome husband and an awesome dad because I'm taking my family on this journey while I'm checking all these boxes. Right? So if you can make big decisions and change channels to the strategic on the front end, make these big decisions, then when you change channels down to the tactical and you're executing, you've already pre-decided so much that moving forward becomes so much easier because you've already decided the criteria for making your decisions. Again, getting dressed in the morning, if your wardrobe is 100% the same, just means you have to make the decision to get dressed. That's the only decision you have to make. And it's going to be super fast and easy because you don't have to make any choices. You don't have to take a bunch of actions and go in the mirror and say, does this match this thing? And does this match? You don't got to do it. You already, at the strategic level, you made the choices that eliminated the choices at the tactical level.
Powerful. Powerful stuff. I love it. And I want to make sure we leave. First of all, I want to thank you, Dr. Apollo. This has just been really a really in-depth look at bold decision making and why it wins long term over just blueprints or plans itself. And yes, and this is a winning formula, just also for other people to that they can learn from people that are doing it. I want to make sure, first of all, I want to thank you personally for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be
My
with us here
pleasure,
today,
Chris.
not only for myself, but the Sustainable Success team. But also, I want to let the listeners know how can they best get in contact with you? What are you up to? Anything that you like to share or provide them?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first, I'll just say LinkedIn. Come find me on LinkedIn. But I want to, as we're about to leave here, I want to share with you that I believe that the age of long-term strategic plans is gone, and that I think that the future of strategic smarts is in making strategic decisions and understanding when you need to make a new big bold decision. So I think that there is not anything more important of a skill that you can develop other than the ability to make decisions, because things are changing so incredibly fast with technology, politics, technology again, that
Well, not yeah.
it's so important to do that, to improve your decision making skills. But where you can find me is on LinkedIn. If you're listening to this podcast and you've never been a guest on a podcast, every person who hosts a podcast and who is a guest on a podcast is a regular person. And I'm super regular. If you hit me up on LinkedIn and you're like, hey, I saw you on the Sustainable Success podcast, I'm gonna be like, oh my gosh, I'm a blush. So please come find me on LinkedIn. Tell me what resonated with you, or call BS, whatever floats your boat. I would love to connect with you and engage on LinkedIn. It's Dr. Apollo Emeka. That's Apollo Emeka, Emeka. Come find me. Let's talk.
Excellent. Awesome. Well, I can't thank you enough again for taking the time. We are so grateful. We're definitely going to have you on another future show. Just some great, great value that you shared with us here today.
Thank you so much, Chris. And thanks everybody for listening.
Thank you. And thank you, listeners, for joining us each and every week here at Sustainable Success. Again, we are committed to bringing in subject matter experts like Dr. Apollo in to share their words of wisdom and insights to help elevate you and your business to the next level. Again, we encourage you to reach out to Dr. Apollo based upon the contact information he provided. It'll also be here in the show notes again on the Lisbon platform. You can get all that information, including Spotify, Apple, and of course, YouTube. You can get that information. Till then, everybody, have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you here next Thursday, same time. Take care.